order. Would you please rise and join me in? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God.
liberty and justice for all.
First on the item is the public portion. Anyone wishing to address the board may do so. Please come to the podium and state your address for the record. You can take your mask off.
Hi, my name is Ian Gaius. My address is 180 Nichols Avenue. I am a student at Shelton High School, and for my senior capstone project, I requested that the city opens up the compost site near Elizabeth Shelton School in the springtime. I would help assist people in moving their compost. I would also like to ask if myself and my father would be needed to open and lock up the facility on Saturdays in April. Or do we need to have an employee to help with that? I would appreciate any support possible for this activity.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's an easy request. So after the first of the year, if you call my office and talk to my secretary, Cindy, and just tell her that you are here and identify your request, then I'm sure that can be accommodated. I don't see a problem with that at all.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public portion and we'll move on to the regularly scheduled agenda. Item number 1 is the minutes for approval. Item 1.1 is the Board of Aldermen special for 8th, 2021. And then item number 1.2, special public hearing on water main assessments, July 27, 2021.
Move to waive the reading and approve the meeting minutes of the regular Board of Aldermen special virtual meeting in July 8, 2021, and the special public hearing on water main assessments on July 27, 2021. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Angles and seconded by Simonetti. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries and passes unanimously. Item 5.1, Finance Committee meeting. There are no items. Item 5.2, Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. There are no items. And item 5.3 is the Street Committee, and there are no items. So that takes us to the report of the mayor. And I do want to take up one topic tonight. And I want to address the gymnasium floor at Shelton High School, not only for the Board of Aldermen, but for people in the public. Want to address the Great Gidwani's letter to the editor recently, criticizing everybody and their brother in city government over the gymnasium floor, and clarify some issues with respect to how these things happen. Reading the letter, you would have to assume that the author, did not really understand the concept of how these claims get resolved, or they're just being cute. So I'll let everyone else decide for themselves what the real answer is.
To the insurance claim.
Yes, this is the gymnasium floor at Shelton High School. So back in April sometime, I don't have dates specific with me, but there was a breach of the sprinkler system in the gymnasium by the baseball team. It was reported to my office, which all insurance claims are reported to myself and to Jane Dowdy sometime at the end of May. I want to say May 25th, which is the Memorial Day weekend. So after that period of time, there was a conversation between John Calhoun and myself about the status of. And so I asked him what transpired. And so when a water breach occurs on a wood floor, it usually takes several weeks for warping to appear. So there's not an immediate reaction that was necessary or required by anybody or anything at that point in time. Just you have to wait to see what actually occurred with the floor. And so, now you get into June at some time, and there are many people who are on vacation. School is coming to an end. The building, the gymnasium was still being used. I think school got out, I want to say June 20th at some date, but I can't recall.
Who's John Calhoun?
John Calhoun is the maintenance facilities director for the school system. And by the way, I deal with John on a number of different issues. You may remember that we recently approved funding for the replacement of the transformer at Shelton High School, which was 40 years old, and that'll constitute an upgrade. It costs about $200,000 that this board appropriately funded. So there's a lot of dialogue that goes into these changes that occur with the facilities, and certainly when you have a floor that's been down for 50 years in the gymnasium, and all of a sudden the insurance company says that they're going to replace the entire thing. There's a lot of time and discussion with staff at Shelton High School, the superintendent of schools, and the maintenance director as to how, why, and when it will occur. And should we do something different that we haven't done in the past? Look, technology has driven the change for so many different things from 50 years ago that, I said to them, do we want to do something by way of the synthetic floor? And so it was finally decided that the floor would be replaced with wood as it was originally built. I also want to call to your attention that when things like this happen, there is no role for the Board of Aldermen whatsoever. There's really no role for the Board of Education other than, I asked them to weigh in whether they wanted to do a different concept with the floor, be it synthetic or wood or a combination of both. And so, all these things take time because you're in the middle of summer. And, quite honestly, we're in this time of pandemic, which has changed everything, particularly time frame for how and when and why things get done. And quite honestly, we ordered police vehicles 9 months ago.
Noreen McCourty.
Joined the meeting.
And so, that's just one example, but you talk to any builder, maintenance director, we were waiting for faucets and plumbing supplies for the showers at the community center for over 3 months for this stuff to come in. And so, just giving you some specific examples of what causes delays, what is it, and when you haven't experienced this before or haven't been part of the remedy for these things before, it's easy to criticize. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and point fingers. And that's what transpires on social media in this day and age, particularly in an election year when some people are desperate. They'll say just about anything. And so I wanted a clarification to be put on the record, and this will be on our Facebook page sometime this week. So that anybody interested in the public can understand, how the whole transformation of the change of the floor occurs. So I'll stop there and I'll entertain any questions that the board may have.
Can you explain the role of the insurance company? We have an insurance policy. Do they send out an adjuster? What happens there, and what is our deductible? Does it change depending on what we do, how we repair this problem?
Well, every claim is different. And the magnitude of the claim is really determined on the extent of the damage. And so, yes, there is an insurance adjuster. The insurance adjuster has to approve the claim. The insurance adjuster is involved in the approval process in terms of who's going to do the work. Now, we have a private contractor who's going to come in and do this work. We do have a $10,000 deductible, which the city will pay. And then the insurance carrier will pay the rest of the bill for the replacement of the floor. So, to try to get all those parties together and coordinated and a decision made at the end of June and the 4th of July weekend is a little bit tenuous because people are traveling and people are away, people are just unavailable. And so, all these things take time. And quite honestly, the dialogue with some members of the Board of Education, I can't tell you how many meetings I had at Shelton High School with different people to get their view on what we should do in terms of replacement. And so we did get a consensus, and we're going to go forward with a wood floor replacement.
I asked the superintendent today if he was involved in the process and in the decision making. He replied that he and his staff were, and that they were satisfied with the course of action that's being taken. He also made comment with respect to the decision not to use the gym during the repair. And this is not without precedent, because we have done work up at the Shelton High School before, the sprinkler system and other work that we've done up there, and we don't use those areas like the library while the work is going on, because there's tremendous liability involved, and they're not interested in assuming that liability, nor is the city. So that's why he made the decision that they'll use other venues, other gymnasiums during this temporary closure.
Yeah, and let me get into that a little bit, because I think it's important for the disinterested independent viewer to understand that the footprint of the school system that is in place currently was to service 6,600 students. And this was decided 20 years ago. It's one of the reasons why I went along with the rehabilitation of the old Shelton High School to the new Perry Hill 5-6 school, because it would satisfy our classroom needs going out 20 years. Well, little did anyone know that the pendulum swang the other way, and we had a decrease in enrollment. Our enrollment is down 1,500 students since 2009, 1,500 students. That's pretty significant. So all the gym space that we had in place was there to accommodate 6,600 kids. We have an abundance of gym space available for any activity at Shelton High School to be moved to another facility. And that'll be up to the school system to decide to do that. It's the same point that I made during the budget process. Every year they come back and they ask for millions more. How could that be when you're down that many kids? How could you need millions more every single year? It really defies logic in my mind. And so I think that over the course of time that we've proven that they really don't need everything that they request for. And so consequently, we've given them increases that were appropriate and sustained. The system performs as well as anybody else's. Every year at budget time, the school system gets demonized, and it's unfortunate because there's a lot of kids that graduated, generations of students that graduated from our school system that are doing very well for themselves in the world. I can tell you about a 1979 senior who graduated from Shelton High School, went to Harvard, and he became the CEO of Citibank worldwide as we sit here today. And there are many stories like that. So I think that many people over the years have been able to see through all this rhetoric that goes on at budget time and how about funding the school system and giving them what they need. The other thing that people don't understand is our teachers are the 10th highest paid in the state of Connecticut. That's a pretty good number. And quite honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I'm okay with that. But when you want to tell me you need millions more every year, you're going to have to prove that to me. And if people just want to take a position of give them what they want, I got to tell you, I'm not there. I'm not there. So I don't know if anybody has any more questions. I'm happy to continue to go on.
Your Honor, if I may, you answered two of my questions. What is the time frame to make the repair? And it's my understanding from some people at the school that it was still usable for certain activities. It wasn't completely stopped from being used after the unfortunate and accidental flood.
Well, and that's neither here nor there at this point, because once they start work and school begins, the building, the gymnasium is going to be shut down for the duration of the repairs. And, quite honestly, I don't know how long it's going to take, and I don't get involved in it. I just know from experience that it's very difficult to get materials. The price of lumber has almost doubled. across the country, the price of concrete. I was talking to a mason today and they were saying that they're not even making a certain type of brick until next year. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on that of materials and supplies that have affected, everyone doing business. So, with that said, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and point fingers at people. It's very different to be in the arena and perform successfully. And I'll also embellish a little bit more about our school buses, because the great Gidwani has also been a big critic of our school bus performance. And I'll venture to say that what we did this year was far better than most systems in the state of Connecticut. If we missed a couple of runs here and there, then so be it. At some point in time, we had 16, 17 drivers who called in because of COVID, or who had COVID. You know what? There's no mention of, we just criticized the school bus operation, but there's no mention of the fact that the teachers sat out for almost 4 months because of the pandemic and because of COVID. So is this just about the shuttle school bus drivers, or no one else matters in the state of Connecticut except what goes on here? Or is this election year demagoguery? I'll let you decide. Anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, this is Alderman Gidwani. I got a question for you.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to answer any of your questions. You can try.
Well, I heard you talk about lumber prices. If you look at the index on the New York stock market, lumber prices are coming down. They're not going up. That's one. Number two is when an insurance company has to make a payout, they pay out for exactly what you have on your property. In like Shelton High has hardwood floors, they're going to pay for hardwood floors, and they're not going to pay for anything else. And we all know that, because if you have homeowners claims on your insurance, the insurance company will only give you X amount of dollars towards repairing. If you had a fire, you had a damage, you had a water leak, they're not going to give you more money. So you saying that, we were looking at different options, the insurance company is not going to pay any different than what they're going to pay for the hardwood. So I don't know why a delay still.
Well, both of your comments are irrelevant and got nothing to do with what I said. In my mind, if we were going to change the design of the floor at Shelton High School or do something different and it cost $50,000 more, I'd be at the Board of Aldermen asking for that. So your comments are really irrelevant. My whole point is your diatribe on social media and demonizing people, and you don't even know what you're talking about. You've never had to be involved in anything like this before in your life. But yet you could sit on the sidelines and just point the finger and make things up, quite honestly. And you can go ahead and do that. That's your right. It's also my right to continue to respond.
And talking about this, we've had a problem with the streets, all the brush that's been grown over these years. We still don't have the right equipment.
He's got to say something because he wants that last word, and so be it. Okay, I'm done. Do you have anything for the board's?
Yes, I do. I'd like you to know that I sat through a meeting today at the Board of Education, and I want you to know that I made the comment there that I think the current superintendent and Board of Education and leadership have taken the communications and the relationship with the city to a new level. I want to point out that in the last 2 years, the last year they have the funding of the Board of Education. They had $1.2 million in excess of what they needed to run the school system. And the year before, they had $500,000 in excess of what they needed to run the school system. Now, the 2 years before, they gave back the $500,000 to the city, as is the required procedure. And this year, they worked with the mayor on a number of issues, one of which was the charter school cost that the city of Bridgeport had charged the city of Shelton and all other local municipalities. And that was a considerable bill, somewhere in the 600, 700,000 range. And in conjunction with the mayor, they determined that they paid that bill off in full using the excess money that they had, which heretofore would not have happened because the dialogue did not exist. But I told them that I was very encouraged because of the things that were going on, and that we had in our last finance committee meeting, we had laid out chapter and verse, step by step, point by point, expenditure by expenditure, the thinking of the Board of Education, which we and the mayor agreed with in the formation of their budget for this year, which was the first time that we've seen this. And we also received a copy of their adopted budget for this year, so we know what's going on, something that hadn't happened in the past.
Well, let me just jump in. That's not entirely true. I will say that things are much better than they have been the last 5 years, but there are years going by where the Board of Education has given back $2 million to the city. It's hard to remember 30 years worth of budgets and issues, but when you're in my seat, then these are some things that you never forget. Some people just choose to fight. Some people just choose to play politics. Other people choose to be rational, and then you wind up with pretty good results when you do that. I think the bigger point to your opening comments is that the city of Shelton paid $50,000 less than everybody else. So you have to ask yourself, how'd that happen?
50,000 for the charter
For the charter school payment, with the thought that we would work to get it even lower, to zero it out, because even Bridgeport realizes that there's no benefit to them charging the surrounding communities a stipend when they get a bigger stipend from the state of Connecticut. So if they take ours, they don't get it from the state of Connecticut. So that's their goal. But see, things like this never come out because there's nothing's challenged, or there's no dialogue. People, there were members on our Board of Education that said, "Oh, let's just pay it. Let's pay it and move on." And that's in the public minutes.
My point is that in recent years, there has not been the superintendent office has not been cooperative with the mayor's office. But when they are, things get done that are positive and go in the right direction. And that's the extent of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to item number 6, the legal report, 6-1 Corporation Council bill.
Move to authorize a total payment of $2,187.50 to Corporation Counsel to Delcio Stanek LLC for services rendered per statement dated August 2nd, 2021, with funds to come from the legal fees account. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ingles and seconded by McPherson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It carries, passes unanimously. Item 6-2, Assistant Corporation Council bill.
Move to authorize a total payment of $1,171.50 to Assistant Corporation Counsel Thomas Galvin Cotter for services rendered per statements dated August 9th, 2021, with funds to come from the legal fees account. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Carloni. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Item number 7 is legislative vote. We have one item from public hearing. Item 7-1A is the water main assessments for Birdseye Road.
I move to approve the recommended water main assessments for Birdseye Road water main extension as set forth by the city engineer in his memo titled Proposed Water Main Assessments for Birdseye Road dated May 26, 2021. Further, Move that these assessments be published in summary form with a full copy available for review in the office of the city town clerk. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ingles and seconded by McPherson. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The public hearing was held on July 27th and all conditions of the ordinance were met. However, I have written our state senator and our state representatives a letter asking them to petition the state legislature to include water line extensions into the water rate structure versus forcing these costs on individual homeowners. I'm asking to attach this letter as part of the record.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item 8 is financial business old, and there are no items. Item 9 is financial business new. We'll do August statutory refunds.
Move that the report of the tax collector relative to the refund of taxes for a total amount of $7,385.71 be approved, and that the finance director be directed to make payments in accordance with the certified list received from the tax collector with funds to come from the statutory refunds account. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ingles, seconded by Simonetti. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item 9.2 is funding for the repairs to the sewer system.
Move to authorize an amount of $692,950 for repairs to the sewer system on Bridgeport Avenue, extending from Nels Rock Road to John Street, with funding to come from the American Rescue Plan. Further, authorize Mayor Mark A. Loretti to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate same.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Simonetti. Any discussion? For the benefit of the board, the rehabilitation of these sewer lines is specifically to, one, maintain the integrity of the line so it doesn't collapse. They're very old. And number two, when we rehabilitate these lines, we take out any breaches in these lines that would allow fresh water to come into the system. See, the goal for any municipality in the state is to eliminate I&I, as they call it, inflow and infiltration of fresh water, because it's a very expensive process to process sludge through the wastewater treatment plant. And when you mix it with water, it becomes more costly. Okay, all those.
And is this, I noticed that this is only one portion of the city sewer lines. Are they looking into perhaps doing it with other areas that might be needed, other sewer lines that we might be needed? Because we've got a lot of federal American Rescue Plan money available to use.
We've been at this for about 15 years now. This is not a new concept. This is the most sensitive area because of the integrity of the structure of the pipes. Some of these are old concrete pipes, some of them are tile, that some of them are 100 years old. So they need attention. And the procedures that they have now through technology are incredible. And so we go into the line and we line it, put a new liner in it. And like I said, this has been going on for about the last 15 years.
Yeah, but I guess my point is, if there's more, let's fix it, because let's get to it, because there's plenty of money available from the American Rescue funds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Item 9.3 is the emergency exit ramp at Sunnyside School, waiver of bids.
Move per the recommendation of the finance director to waive the bids for the replacement of the emergency exit ramp on the south side of Sunnyside School.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Simonetti. Any discussion?
This work being done by the Board of Education.
Being done by both the city. This ramp was put in. This is one of the very first projects that was on my plate when I got elected mayor back in 1992. The reopening and rehabilitation of Sunnyside School. So there was a ramp. There was a couple of concrete brick ramps that were put on the outside of the building to comply with ADA. And with this one ramp in particular, had just started to disintegrate and become problematic in terms of safety. So the city funded this through a bond authorization, aldermanic bonding that we did about a year and a half ago. The city also took out the old structure, and we're now going to contract with a private vendor to put a new aluminum ramp in that will meet the ADA compliance. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item 9.4 is the sale of city property, Wesley Drive, 45, 49, and 53.
Move for a favorable 824 referral from planning and zoning to approve the sale of city property as shown on the attached map for the purpose of resolving encroachment issues involving number 45, 49, and 53 Wesley Drive, subject to deed restrictions ensuring that nothing can be built in this area and that a fence be installed on the property line.
Second.
Will further authorize Mayor Mark Moretti to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate same.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Simonetti, and with discussion, I would just call to your attention that asking that a fence go up on the property, I'm not sure what the purpose for that is. None of the other properties that border in that neighborhood, in that open space corridor, have a fence. You know, what would be the purpose of having a fence there now?
Well, the purpose, in my opinion, is the fact that we're dealing with this because of encroachments into this open space. And if it happens once, it can happen again without a fence. But the fence is a demarcation. I'm not suggesting the type of fence. I'm just simply saying that there's got to be the owners, whoever the owners are, and it might be in the future, got to know where their property ends and our property begins. And I thought that that was a reasonable way of ensuring that it happens. It doesn't happen again.
But here again, these things happen because of people. And as people come and go out of a neighborhood, you know, things will either change or things will stay the same. And, you know, you don't do that anywhere else around the city. And we have over 2,000 acres of open space that borders, that backs into residential areas, and we don't do that.
Yeah, well, okay.
I just think it just becomes a little unsightly.
But it's different in this case, in my view. It's different in this case because we're dealing here with an encroachment. We're dealing with somebody who went in and blatantly used our property for their benefit. And I think it behooves us to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
This happens all over the city. We get these complaints and issues, have to deal with these issues constantly. And I don't think you can ever stop it. I don't think the rationale makes any sense, to be honest with you. And look, it's no skin off my back. I mean, I don't have to put up the fence, but I just think it's totally inconsistent with what we do with everything else.
I just have a clarification or a comment, if I have a minute, if you have a minute. Can someone please help me understand the encroachment that occurred, and now we're looking to provide this open space? I'm just a little confused. If someone could just take just a minute or two to provide a little bit more detail, that'd be great.
Yeah, so these properties in particular have very shallow backyards. And one guy put a pool on the property line. And there's supposed to be a setback when you put in facilities and structures. And so, in the other cases, I think that there's just landscaping, and actually, it's quite nice, the landscaping. So from my personal standpoint, I'm not sure I'm gonna lose any sleep over someone that wants to beautify a very small strip of city property that backs into 550 acres of open space. So, I mean, that's the long and the short of it for this particular property. You know, one of the
Yeah,
other
that's helpful. Oh, go ahead.
The other rationale that I used with planning and zoning is that when this subdivision was put in, it was done under a PDD, and there's specific requirements for square footage and lot sizes, which there should be. And while all of these lots met the requirements, most of the land is in the front of the house that is totally unusable because it's all rock and it's a cliff, for lack of a better term. And so when you put in a property of the magnitude of these properties up there on Wesley Drive that sell for $500,000, $600,000, $750,000, and they're 4 and 5 bedrooms, you know, why would you think that, you know, people wouldn't want amenities, people wouldn't have kids that bought houses like this? They, you know, in one case, there's a playscape and a pool. Okay, I mean, quite honestly, I don't find that offensive. I still understand that they cannot use city property. And so, you know, in some cases, in other parts of the city, we've asked them to remove playscapes, we've asked them to remove sheds, and they've had to do that. And so, in this case, I don't think, I just think that zoning, when they, and believe me, I'm a fan of zoning. And it's hard to miss things when you're busy. And our zoning commission is busy, even 20 and 25 years ago. But it happens. And so as you look back at it, in hindsight, you would say to yourself, boy, they should have given them a couple of extra feet in the backyard so that these things could happen. So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents of things based on what I've seen over my tenure and the issues that we've had to deal with in this area.
Okay, thank you. That provides some good color. I think my comment to that, or additional comment, is if I'm looking to purchase this property, I know what I'm buying, and I would imagine it's quite attractive to have a parcel up against open space, knowing that no one will develop behind me. And perhaps I would, you know, say that's worth it to have less of a front yard or whatnot. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the fact that they did go into the open space. So I kind of see John's point with that regard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees that, you know, they can't do, they shouldn't do that. We shouldn't allow them to do it, but I just think that from a planning standpoint, you know, we should have given it more consideration for houses of that magnitude. And, you know, quite honestly, when someone puts a playscape on a border of either our property or someone else's property, we ask them to move it, and they move it. It's easy to do. But, you know, and then when kids grow up, they don't use playscapes anymore. And so a few years after, 10 years later, the playscape comes down and, you know, the grass grows and okay. So, I mean, the only thing that I think shouldn't do is ask them to put up a fence. Certainly, there should be some delineation there. It could be done in other forms. Go ahead, Corporation Counsel.
With regard to the discussion that's going on about how you identify the property, whether it be through a fence or no fence or some other means, surveyors use an item called a monument, which is a very unobtrusive fixture that's put into the ground. You can't even see it, but you can find it very easily because it's bored into the ground. It's called a monument, and it establishes the border.
I totally accept that. I would modify the motion to read, subject to deed restrictions ensuring that nothing can be built in this area and that monuments be installed at the property line.
I'll second.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for to modify the motion, and we have a second by Alderman McPherson. And you know, the other thing that we should do is that perhaps we could do a better job of signage in neighborhoods that abuse more than others. You know, identifying the city open space, no trespassing, no dumping, etc. Whatever needs to be said. So with that, we'll vote on the motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm sorry, can you just read it one more time or
Repeat
say it
it.
one more time? Yeah, please.
The motion is modified to eliminate the placement of a fence, and Corporation Council suggests that we ask them to put in monuments that delineate the property line, which is a common practice for areas like this. There are stone monuments that go into the ground
Okay. That's
that
much clearer.
delineate the property lines.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, item number 9.5 is the sale of city property, assessors map 12A, parcel 3, adjacent to 35 Saginaw Trail.
Move for the favorable 824 referral from planning and zoning to authorize the mayor to pursue the sale of 0.16 acre parcel of city property as shown on assessor's map 12A, parcel 3, located adjacent to 35 Saginaw Trail in Pine Rock Park. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Simonetti. For the benefit of everyone on the board, there are a multitude of properties like this throughout the city. A lot of them are in this end of town, the Pine Rock Park area, the Corn Gardens area, and up by Riverview Park. They are matchbook pieces of property that, for some reason or another, planning and zoning took back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s as a requirement for the property owner to build a house for open space. They really have no value to the city, no value whatsoever, but they do have value to the people that own the property, because maybe they want to put in a garden. They certainly can't build anything on them. Some of these things are all rock. Some of them are all water. Some of them are on a cliff. Some of them are very, very challenging. And quite honestly, the city has liability if someone goes on these properties and gets hurt, or, you know, illegal dumping, then we get the call to go clean it up. And sometimes you can't even get to these properties because you got to go through two neighbors' properties to get to it, and you need their permission to go clean it up. So, you know, there is nothing easy about any of this stuff. So I think that over the years, we've been trying to get these properties off of our books and get them in private hands, let them pay taxes on it, let them maintain the property, let them be responsible. The same thing would apply for item number 9.6. Anybody have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item 9.6, sale of city property, 0 federal road, assessors map 44.
Move for the favorable 824 referral from planning and zoning to authorize the mayor to pursue the sale of city property known as 0 Federal Road on assessor's map 44 and located adjacent to number 33 to 35 Twin Brook Road and 11 Federal Road. So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Carloni. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Takes us to item number 10, legislative new. Item 10, 1A are items from public hearing. Amendment to the Code of Ordinances would be sections 4-35, 4-29, 4-30.
The public hearing will be held on August 24th.
Okay, now these are going, public
These are
hearing.
going to public hearing.
Okay. So, item 10.2 is the acknowledgement of the partnership between the city of Shelton and the Derby Shelton Rotary Club, Shelton Day to be held on October 3rd.
Move to authorize Mayor Margaret Ready to sign an agreement between the city of Shelton and the Derby Shelton Rotary Club to acknowledge the partnership between the city of Shelton and the Derby Shelton Rotary Club during the Shelton Day activities to be held on Sunday, October 3rd, 2021.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. This is standard. We've been doing this for years and years and years. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a suggestion. Could you put a little pizzazz into it this year? Somebody told me it's been losing interest and we need to put some pizzazz into it. So something's got to change.
Well, I do think that the Rotary Club, the new president of the Rotary Club has a different venue that people are gonna see for Shelton Day this year. So hopefully they'll meet your expectations.
Fantastic.
And for the benefit of everyone listening, the City of Shelton fireworks are gonna be on September 3rd, which is the Friday of Labor Day weekend. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously. This takes us to item number 11, executive session. I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session and that Corporation Counsel, Assistant Corporation Counsel.
So moved.
Motion is made by Angley, seconded by McPherson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, folks, you're gonna have to leave the auditorium.